Hey. I'm aware it's been a while. Um, I've had some illness, came down with double pneumonia, and I also recently went to the world's largest cave. Kids had an absolute blast. My 13-year-old, who's very shy, not very vocal in public, you get her home and yap, 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 yap. A young boy in his cute little Boy Scout uniform asked for her number. So yeah, things have been going great. Um, but yes, I have not been online so much lately. So I figured I would pop off with a video. I know I gotta get the music back. I know. It's on the list of things I'm gonna keep procrastinating and not do. But it's on the list. At my job, a couple wonderful, fantastic ladies that work with me have been very nervous about tariffs. Um, one had mentioned that she doesn't know that she'll be able to eat because of how much tariffs are going to raise the cost of food. And I should have stayed out of it, or I could have responded with a calm down, relax. I understand there's a lot of misconceptions and negative things going on right now. People are really saying a lot of negativity. But 138 years of tariffs was great for the country, and I didn't. Instead, I responded as a smartass and instigated a less than lovely but entirely hilarious conversation. And I know that is not a good job. That is not being a good manager. But before I discuss tariffs, I would like to say inflation. The CPI report shows inflation is declining and the economy is moving in the right direction. Core consumer prices, which is the best measure of inflation, has dropped to its lowest in 4 years. This inflation report actually showed inflation is lower than the current president had predicted. Inflation is dropping quickly. Also, the job report is much better than anyone anticipated. Yes, the consumer price index showed inflation eased more than expected in February, and we are seeing some welcome relief following years of inflation. This is in many ways because GE Aerospace will invest $1 billion in manufacturing across 16 states, creating 5,000 new jobs. More to follow. Asahi Group Holdings, a Japanese beverage maker. I really was hoping they were the ones that have a partnership with Jim Beam. It is not. But a $35 million investment is going to produce at the Wisconsin plant to bypass tariffs. Japan will begin making some lovely whiskey. Not Suntory, but great whiskey in Wisconsin. And in exchange, there will be no tariffs, and Jim Beam can go to Japan with no tariffs. Lovely, lovely idea, because Japan makes great whiskey, and their beer is way better than American beer. Just is. Which isn't saying much. American beer sucks. Sorry. I like Miller Lite, but it's not good beer. It's just good American beer. Merck has opened $1 billion North Carolina manufacturing facility with $8 billion coming in multiple states otherwise. Inflation is going down because the job market is changing. The jobs report is very positive. This is a direct result of tariffs. And I know, I hear you saying, but it's going to raise the cost of stuff. Yes, it will raise the cost of some things. However, eggs have dropped 9.8% this month. Now, that has nothing to do with tariffs, and that's completely unfair. But eggs is the big thing that, was discussed in the build-up to the election. Egg prices went up because they culled lots of chickens due to bird flu. And now that the chickens are coming back, the egg prices will drop. Nothing to do with inflation. Just wanted to bring up egg prices are going down. So before I read from textbooks or AI generated data or AI generated article, I know I will be very clear to say this is AI. But some people really trust AI, some people don't. So I've got real people talking, AI talking, and my personal opinion on this. As far as the current president, my complaint is he is too soft with the tariffs, but he's more cautious than I am. Sorry, I'm over the pneumonia, but it's still lots coming out. I believe in reciprocal tariffs. By that, I mean actually matching tariffs. Your tariff on us, we have the same tariff on you. If you want to come to the table and discuss this and see what appeasements we can do, we can. But so here's some numbers from Canada. By the way, aside from Canada's healthcare system and their overly strict gun regulations, I think Canada's a wonderful place. Vancouver's become shitty, though. Love Canada. Love Canadian people. Sorry, don't love your breakfast. And no, Canadian football is fucking great. Love the Grey Cup. Maybe a little biased because they gave love to Warren Moon when Americans were still racist against black quarterbacks. Could have been the GOAT. Could have been the GOAT. So, these are tariffs Canada has had on the United States long before Trump was president. 270% tariff on milk, 245% tariff on cheese, 298% tariff on butter, 238 on chicken, 69.9 on sausage. They didn't want to do 70, they just really wanted 69. respect. 57.8 on barley, which is important for beer. 26.5 on beef. 25 on cars. 45 on HVAC, heating, air conditioning. 35 on vacuums. 35 on cable boxes. 45 on TVs. 25 on steel. 45 on aluminum, and 48 on copper. Now, I have absolutely zero issue with Canada putting those tariffs on the United States. It's good. It creates a benefit for Canadian businesses. It allows your Canadian businesses to compete with larger foreign corporations. Yeah, great idea. Just like Canadian television stations in the past, possibly still, even their adult entertainment stations required 30% or 60 some percentage of these shows had to be made in Canada, which is why Highlander was set in Seacouver. So it was partially filmed in Seattle, partially filmed in Vancouver, and partially filmed in France. So they really hit all three because they want everyone to enjoy. There can be only one. I agree with this. I think Canada's smart for those tariffs. However, if you're putting these large tariffs on the United States, and the United States is not putting any tariffs on Canada, then it incentivizes businesses to move to Canada, and they can sell to the US at no extra cost. And they get to avoid the tariffs that Canada puts on the US. So yeah, it's not fair, and I understand. It may cause a rise in cost of certain things, in particular milk and butter. But the tariffs will allow American farmers and American companies to compete with Canadian companies at a fair level. Simple as that. So let us start. Sorry, I'm not done with my rant on tariffs. Iron law of wages. And it was mentioned, you need to stop just reading stuff on the internet and look at the facts. One, I went to college. I have a degree. I am knowledgeable when it comes to civics and history. And I do not have a degree in economics, but I have studied economics rather seriously. Not a fan of studying economics, by the way. To make it simple, free reign, total laissez-faire, is letting the wolves in with the sheep. Socialism is putting the sheep in the barn and letting a wolf in once a day. And, we want the sheep to have a guard dog to keep the wolves out. That's capitalism with watchdogs, not locking them in the barn. But iron law of wages is businesses will pay the lowest wages possible. Businesses will do whatever is cheapest. Also, businesses will charge the most they possibly can. They will pay their workers the least, pay the least amount of taxes, and charge the most. That's what they do. That's what they will always do, regardless. Now, tariffs makes it so that these businesses will not leave to go to other places to make their shit cheaper. They'll make it here. Now, that means that while they are stealing from all us good customers, they're at least paying taxes to the same people that are stealing from us, calling it taxes, and they're at least giving pittance wages to us, as opposed to giving pittance wages to someone else and then stealing from us. It balances it out some. Iron law of wages and the law of greed. That's why I support tariffs. Tariffs is why American steel exists as opposed to British steel. Tariffs is why the southern United States was growing cotton instead of just buying it from Egypt. Tariffs built this country. Tariffs built Japan. And tariffs is what keeps Canada floating. So, a real person talking. Not me. The verdict of history is clear. No country ever industrialized by pursuing free trade. The rehabilitation of tariffs is a belated course correction in response to the rise of China, which has been driven by U.S. companies that offshore manufacturing. The Middle Kingdom, China, has lost its position as the world's most populous nation to India, but it has surpassed the U.S. as the world's largest national economy. It dominated global manufacturing, accounting for a market share of 30% of the world's manufacturing. In comparison, the same year, American manufacturing dropped to 16%. In 2023, China produced roughly half of the world's crude steel. China is the world's largest automobile maker, accounting for a third of the global total. China's state-backed aerospace company, Comac, will take the global market share from America's Boeing and Europe's Airbus. It's the world's largest commercial shipbuilder, responsible for more than half of all shipbuilding. The United States' share of global shipbuilding market is 0.10%. Yes. And the United States used to be a leader in shipbuilding. In fact, Master and Commander, the movie changed it, but in the book, it was an American ship because only Americans were using that white pine. It was generations ahead of everyone else. Tariffs will rein that in. Tariffs will bring jobs to the U.S. It will make the cost of products slowly lower, because if you're using slave labor in China, and selling stuff for $800-900 that you pay 40 cents for. Massive, massive profits. So you lose a few customers. Eh. The reason why Henry Ford lowered the cost of his cars and raised the cost of his employees was so that every worker could buy a Model T, so that he could have his workers as customers. The money he was paying his workers, he was getting right back by selling to them. It was a less vicious version of the coal mines, where you work for the coal mines and they give you company money to spend at the company store. Yeah. So this is what AI says about tariffs. Again, not my words, not the author of Tablets a Magazine, not that person's words, and not the words of the president. This is AI generated by Google. Tariffs can do a number of useful things. 3 broad uses include. By the way, this is the good and the bad of tariffs. Providing effective protection for domestic production in specific economic sectors, shielding U.S. workers from unfair forms of competition from specific trade partners, like those with abusive labor rights, complementing a country's strong domestic climate policy when trading partners' policies are not as strong, because tariffs are most effective when they focus on a well-defined and narrowly tailored goals. They work best as part of a larger strategy. In detail, the most direct benefit of tariffs is protection for domestic sectors in the U.S. economy that warrant strategic support. For example, some sectors are harmed when our trading partners take actions to support their own domestic exporters, or undercut labor and clean air and water standards, or are critical for economic or national security. As a recent example, U.S. steel and aluminum producers have faced chronic global oversupply that has largely been caused by subsidies that trading partner governments have given their own domestic producers, who are among the world's worst producers. You see, as members of the Paris Climate Accords, we have regulations on how we can produce certain things, whereas China and Russia do not have those restrictions. Therefore, they're able to produce faster, cheaper, and violate all those environmental laws that they don't have to follow. So the Paris Climate Accords just caused many of us to just buy our shit from places that don't follow that. Yes, it lowered the greenhouse emissions of Europe and the United States, and it doubled them in Russia and China. Oh, okay. So the argument of tariffs are going to make your food cost more. It will make certain food cost more. It will also allow some food to thrive and compete. And the best way for them to compete is lower their price under what the others were. And again, let's not forget, inflation caused our food prices to go up 140%. So all I'm trying to say is, for those that are worried about tariffs, I understand. But any raise in tariffs will be vastly overshadowed by the lowering in cost of our fuel and the lowering of inflation. Sorry, I'm still coughing stuff up, but I'm better. But yeah, um, it is scary. Change is scary. And we live in the time of yellow journalism returning. Much like clickbait articles or YouTube or TikTok videos that are like super aggressive statement. The news is the same way. William Randolph Hearst started the Spanish-American War to sell newspapers. Just take a moment, look at history, and if you're truly worried about something, take a moment to research it. And I don't mean research by jumping on the internet or reading a news article. I'm worried about tariffs. Okay, what are tariffs? Let's look up what tariffs are, what they do, what's the good and what's the bad. I am worried about global warming. Okay, well, you should 100% look into climate change, look at the hockey stick graph, look at the CO2 emissions, look at the ozone layer. I mean, there are things to look into. If it's something you're worried about, look into the topic, not what people think about it or what people say about it. And have conversations with people you disagree with. And if you can have a reasonable conversation with someone that you can disagree with, where you are reasonable and they are reasonable, that is the most valuable tool you can find. And you'll both come across questions where, like, well, I don't know. I don't know either. All right, let's find out. I'm going to go look stuff up. You go look stuff up. Let's talk about it. See what we find. There is no reason to be overly stressed if you don't know what's going on. You're just guessing and assuming and reacting. And that's natural. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying it's not productive. Take a moment. If you have time, and if you're truly worried about something, take the time. Research, look into it, find out. You'll usually find out things aren't quite what you thought. And often you'll find out you're right about a lot of things that you doubted. And you're wrong about a lot of things you were positive of. Learning is never a bad thing. It just makes us all better. So, I'm not shitting on anyone or attacking anyone who has opinions or thoughts that I don't ascribe to. I value reasonable people I disagree with. We keep each other honest. But I promise you, we will get through all of this. We will. We've been through worse, and we will get through worse later. Life sucks. The world's evil. We might be too.